So in the previous session we saw how pandas can easily generate HTML tables starting from a data frame. So in this session we'll be doing the reverse process. We will be using the function read_html to parse an HTML page looking for an HTML table. So in this session we'll be discussing in particular the function read_html, which we'll be using to read the HTML tables directly from a web page and into a pandas data frame. So let's take first a simple example of an HTML page which we already have in our Jupyter notebook. So in the last session we had created a HTML page called as myframe1.html, which is existing in the directory of our Jupyter notebook. So now I am going to call this myframe1.html page from the Jupyter directory, and from that we are going to extract the table. So if you see the contents of the myframe1.html, this is the contents. We have is up, down, left, right is actually the column labels, and white, black, blue, they're actually the indexes, and these numbers are actually the randomly generated numbers in our data frame. So let's start writing the Python script. Let's first import the numpy and the pandas. Now let's call the read_html function. Now read_html function can take the file name as an argument, or it can also take the web page. In our case, in this case, let's first give the file name. The file name is myframe1.html. So this is going to return a value. Let's say I put it into a variable called as webframes. So what is this read_html function going to do is, it is actually one of the easiest ways to scrape the web data. So read_html is one of the easiest ways to scrape the web data. The data can be cleaned further later according to our requirements. So now let's execute this. So after executing, what happens here is, okay, there is a problem here. Myframe1, that's the name of the HTML file. Myframe1.html. Okay, it has to be within single quotes. That's the reason we're getting error. So now read_html is directly parsing. It's parsing the contents of this HTML page, and let's see what is inside this web frames. Since if you just give this directly web frames and execute, you can see that you can see the contents of our HTML page. This is actually our HTML page with all these tags, and what this function has done is read_html, it has extracted the required HTML table from this HTML page, right? So since in this case our HTML page is actually having only one table, so that reason if I give web frames of 0 also, it's going to give the same value. If I give 1, it's not going to work because I just have one table in my case. So if you give here 0, it works because web frames is actually going to contain a list of tables. Okay, in this case our list is going to have just one table because our HTML page is having only one table. We suppose I have two tables, web frames will be containing list of two tables. So this was a simple example where we have used read_html function to read the or scrape the contents from the HTML page which is existing in our notebook. Let's take another example where now in this example we'll try to scrape the contents from a web page. We'll try to scrape the contents from a web page using this read_html function. See, this is a very simple function. It can be easily used to scrape the contents from a web page. So let's first, before we use this read_html function, let's first decide which is our URL that we are going to scrape. So I have a URL here which is called as Wikipedia. Okay, there's a Wikipedia link which is going to called as demographics of India. So I'll be using this link which I have to give within the double quotes. So within this URL you have to store it within double quotes, and if you see here in this URL there are web page, there are so many tables, right? I think there are some around 10 tables. So this is one table, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. We are going to extract the details only from this table, which is called as population distribution by states. And in this example, let's try to extract this complete table first, and from this table let's extract only the state table and then the population table. So we'll try to scrape only 2 columns from this particular table. So what we have to do is, let's first call the read_html function, right? So pd.read_html. So what would be the value of the argument? It's just going to be this URL. Okay, so now let's store this somewhere, let's say DFS. So now when I execute, okay, now there is an error while reading this pd.read_html. Now what's the error? Let's go through this. Okay, let's try to give it within. So probably this error is because of the web page name. Let me try to give this link directly here with single quotes, and let's see how it works. Okay, when there is an asterisk here, it means that it is still executing, so you need to wait. So it's taking some time, and again it's giving us a timeout error. So there is a timeout error. Probably there is a problem in, let's try to open this link in the web browser, whether to check just whether it is correct or not, whether the URL is correct or not. Yes, there was a problem in the URL which I have given. Let's what shall I do is, I'll just try to put the URL again. Okay, I think there was a problem in the URL because it did not even open here. Let's try to execute again. The function is correct, pd.read_html. The problem was in the URL. So let's wait, because you have the asterisk sign here. Let's wait till it executes. It's taking some time to scrape the details from the web page. Yes, now it has been executed correctly. So I think the problem was in the link which I had given here. Now what shall we do is, now it has, let's just see what's there in DFS. Anyway, it will just going to give us some random information. What I want to see is, I want to see how many tables are there in this. So let's say I want to see how many tables are in this web page. I just give a print command for this. Just give a user length function. So there are some 52 tables in this web page. Okay, now in this 52 tables, I just want to extract only a particular table. The name of that table is, let's say, this one. I want to extract this table only. So how do you do this? So what you can do is just do right click inspect. So when you do right click inspect, you get all the automatically converted HTML information of this entire web page. So now go to the corresponding table. Now I want to get the details of this table. Just click on this first button, select an element. So when you do that, see the corresponding HTML content is of that, wherever the mouse is there, the corresponding HTML information will come on the right side. Now I just want to take the name of this table. So the name of this table, it is showing the caption as population distribution by state. So I need to copy this, and I have already copied it, and I'm saved it in my system. So I'll be using it directly here. So that name of the table will be used as a value for the match. So go back to your notebook. So what I'm doing now is, in pd.read_html, the first argument I gave was the link of the URL, comma. The second argument I'm giving a option called as match. In match, I'm going to give the name of the table which I'm going to scrape out. So the name of the table, as I just showed you, I extracted from the HTML inspect command. Right? When I just click here, I can see the name of the table. So that I have now put into the match option. And this information I'm going to keep it in a variable called as my table. So execute this. Just wait for some time until this asterisk is there. So that means it is scraping the function is scraping the details from the information that I've given to this function. So if it is successful, I can view what is there in my underscore table. So let's wait. It's taking pretty long time, probably my internet, or it can be because of the contents of the page. Now it has been extracted successfully. Now let's see what is there in my table. See, if you see my table, see the entire table is now visible, right? The entire table, it has some how many entries? 37 entries. Since it was a very big table, you can see it is coming many times. The columns could not be displayed at once, right? So I don't have many tables, it's actually just one table, but the columns could not be displayed at one go. This is only 3 columns, and then you have 4, 5, 6. That's the reason. Now from this table, I just want to scrape out only particular information. I want to scrape out only this column, the column which is having the state and the population. So I just want to extract 2 columns from this table, state and population. Now state is at the column number 1 and population is at the column number 2. So how do you do that? So just type here my underscore table. Within that, this is, I have just one table, so that's why I gave the index as 0. Then in that, I'm going to scrape out the first index, which is going to give me the state. So let me keep this in a variable called as state, and I'm going to display the state here. Then I'm just going to repeat the same thing for population. The population is in the next column, so the index is 2, and copy paste this here. Now let's execute. So what I've done is my table is actually having the entire table. I'm taking the first column with the index number 1, and that is having the state information, and a column with the index number, column number 2, which is going to give us the population. Let's execute. See, when I execute state, you can see that particular column is extracted or scraped out. Now when I execute this population, see, I got the contents of the population. So that's a very so therefore this example demonstrates how we can scrape out details from the web page. We have done through 2 examples. In the first example, we scraped out the details from the web page we already have in our system, and in the second example, we tried to take details from an external, from a web page, from a Wikipedia web page, where we went through inspected the HTML content and extracted a particular table and contents of a particular table in particular. So try these examples in your system. Any problems or any queries or any suggestions, please put it in the comment box. Thank you.